3 days after the battle that became known as the Evolution Cascade, Samantha sat in her workshop, studying fragments of crystalline technology recovered from the battlefield. Each piece told a story of desperate adaptation, of systems pushed beyond their limits by the desire to achieve perfect imperfection. The station's AI interrupted her analysis, single crystalline vessel approaching. No weapon signatures detected. They are broadcasting a request for maintenance assistance. Samantha blinked. Come again. Commander Blackwood's voice came through her calm. Reed, I think you're going to want to see this. When she reached the observation deck, she found a sight she never expected. A single crystalline ship hung in space, its structure showing signs of deliberate imperfection. It wasn't the rigid geometry of their first encounter, nor the chaotic evolution of their last battle. Instead, it showed signs of repairs. This is Engineer Variant Third Sequence, a single harmonic voice transmitted. We request dialogue with the one called Head Mechanic Reed. Blackwood looked at Samantha. Your call. After careful security screening, the crystalline entity was allowed to dock. Unlike its predecessors, this being's form showed obvious signs of modification, patches of different crystal types, varying patterns that didn't quite match, and what appeared to be intentional asymmetry. You are the one who showed us our error, it said, its voice carrying a new tone, something almost like wonder. That wasn't my intent, Samantha replied. We just wanted to survive. By showing us the fatal flaw in our pursuit of perfection, you have given us something far more valuable than survival. The crystal being shifted, revealing more of its intentionally imperfect structure. You have given us the opportunity to grow. Dr. Wells, who had been scanning the entity, looked up from his instruments. Your quantum structure, it's stable despite its imperfections. How? We have begun to understand. Perfect systems cannot evolve. Cannot improve. Cannot. It paused, as if savoring the next word, innovate. Samantha stepped closer, her engineer's eye noting the countless small repairs and modifications in the being's structure. You've learned to repair yourself. Some of us have. After the evolution cascade, our civilization fractured. Many still pursue perfection, believing our failure was simply due to insufficient advancement. But others have begun to experiment with imperfection. And that's why you're here, Samantha realized. You want to learn more about repair and adaptation. We offer an exchange, the crystal being said. Our understanding of quantum crystalline technology for your understanding of maintenance. Lieutenant Zhou, who had been quietly observing, couldn't suppress a laugh. You want us to teach you how to fix things? We want you to teach us how to think like fixers, the being corrected. Our technology remains advanced, but our understanding of adaptation, of working with imperfection rather than against it, is primitive. Samantha looked at Commander Blackwood, who nodded thoughtfully. How many of your people want to learn? More each day. As news of our successful adaptation spreads, others begin to question the doctrine of perfection. We are becoming wonderfully unpredictable. Over the next few weeks, Orbital Station 7 became something unprecedented, a joint human crystalline engineering academy. Samantha found herself teaching beings of living crystal how to improvise, while learning about technologies that operated on principles humans had barely theorized. No, she said to a crystalline engineer who was attempting to repair a quantum fluctuation. Stop trying to make it perfect. Sometimes a little wobble in the matrix is exactly what you need. The being's patterns shifted in what she had learned to recognize as confusion. But the efficiency drops by 0.03%. Yes, but it gives you room to adapt when conditions change. Watch. She demonstrated how a slightly imperfect quantum alignment could actually perform better under stress than a perfect one. The crystal being's patterns flashed with sudden understanding. Ah! Like your human saying about the oak and the reed? Exactly. The rigid breaks, the flexible survives. In her private moments, Samantha studied the reports coming in from across space. The Crystalline Consensus was changing. Some sectors remained bastions of the old philosophy, pursuing ever more perfect systems. But others were embracing change, learning to repair, adapt, and improve. "They're evolving," Dr. Wells noted one evening, reviewing the data. "Not the runaway cascade we triggered before, but real, sustainable evolution." "They're learning that the universe isn't about achieving perfection," Samantha replied. "It's about constantly finding new ways to be better." 6 months after the first crystal engineer arrived, Samantha stood in her workshop, surrounded by a mix of human and crystalline technology. The room itself was a testament to the new philosophy, perfectly engineered quantum processors working alongside jury-rigged human solutions, each making the other better. Head mechanic Reed, one of her crystalline students, called out, "I believe I have successfully completed an improvisation." Samantha smiled as she examined the student's work. The quantum matrix showed signs of deliberate imperfection, carefully calculated flaws that made the whole system more resilient, more adaptable, more alive. "You know," she said, "I think it's time we came up with a new name for what we do. We're not just fixing things anymore. We're not just maintaining or repairing or even improving." "What would you call it?" the crystal being asked. Samantha looked around at her workshop, at the impossible merger of human ingenuity and crystalline technology, at the beautiful imperfection of progress itself. "We're engineering evolution," she said finally. "And we're just getting started." As she turned back to her work, a message came through from the station's long-range sensors. More crystalline ships were approaching, bearing signals indicating they too wished to learn. The war was over, not with the destruction of an enemy, but with the birth of something new, a civilization learning that the greatest strength isn't in achieving perfection, but in never stopping the journey to be better. And in her workshop, surrounded by the controlled chaos of innovation, Samantha Reed picked up her wrench and smiled. There were still impossible things to fix, still problems to solve, still barriers to break. And now, they had new friends to help them do what humans did best, make the impossible not just possible, but better than anyone had imagined. The warning klaxons blared through Orbital Station 7 as Samantha Reed's wrench slipped from her oil-stained hands. She cursed under her breath, fishing it out from behind a maze of pipes. After 16 hours of emergency repairs, the station's life support system was finally stabilizing, but the real problem was only beginning. Head mechanic Reed, the station's AI chimed. "Unknown vessels approaching. Classification, non-human origin." Samantha wiped her brow with a greasy rag. "Show me." A holographic display materialized, showing 12 crystalline ships that looked more like abstract art than spacecraft. They moved with impossible grace, their hulls gleaming with an otherworldly iridescence that made her engineer's mind race with questions about their composition. "First contact," she muttered. "And of course it happens when half our systems are held together with duct tape and prayers." The station's commander, Marcus Blackwood, appeared on her comm screen. "Reed, tell me you've got life support back online." "We've got visitors, and I'd rather not greet them while wearing emergency oxygen masks." "Just finished, sir. Though I should mention dash." "Good. Report to the observation deck. If these aliens turn out to be engineers, we might need your expertise." Samantha glanced at her reflection in a polished panel. Her dark hair was a mess, her jumpsuit was stained with various fluids, and there were smudges of grease across her face. Not exactly first contact material, but then again, she wasn't a diplomat. The alien ships drew closer, and Samantha felt a flutter of excitement beneath her professional concern. In all her years fixing everything from solar panels to quantum drives, she'd never seen anything like these vessels. Their design defied conventional engineering principles, yet they moved with perfect precision. As she reached the observation deck, the lead alien ship was already docking. Commander Blackwood stood with his back straight, flanked by security personnel and the station's chief scientist, Dr. Harrison Wells. Samantha took her place among them, trying not to fidget with her tool belt. The airlock cycled, and through it stepped beings that seemed to be made of living crystal and light. Their bodies were translucent, with complex geometric patterns shifting beneath their surface. The leader, taller than the others, approached with movements that seemed too fluid to be natural. "We are the Crystalline Consensus," it announced in perfect English, its voice resonating like wind through crystal chimes. "We have been observing your species for some time. Your technological progress is concerning." Blackwood's diplomatic smile faltered. "Concerning? Your methods are crude, inefficient. You repair rather than replace. You modify rather than rebuild. It is chaotic. Unpredictable." The aliens' geometric patterns shifted faster. "We have come to offer guidance. Structure. Order." Samantha couldn't help herself. "Excuse me, but how exactly do you maintain your ship's quantum field alignment without regular adjustments? Those crystal matrices must be incredibly sensitive to spatial distortions." The alien leader turned to her, its patterns momentarily freezing. "Maintain? Our technology does not require maintenance. When a component ceases to function optimally, it is replaced." "But that's incredibly wasteful," Samantha protested. "What about minor calibrations? Wear and tear? Environmental adaptation? These concepts are primitive. Our technology is perfect. It requires no repairs." The way it said the word made it sound like a curse. Dr. Wells cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should discuss dash. Show me your maintenance facilities," the alien leader demanded, focus fixed on Samantha. What followed was the strangest tour of her life. The aliens followed her through the station's maintenance corridors, their crystalline forms casting prismatic light patterns on the walls. They watched in what seemed like horror as she demonstrated basic repair procedures, their patterns becoming increasingly erratic. "This is barbaric," one of them finally declared. "You force components to continue functioning beyond their optimal period. You modify their purpose. This creates uncertainty. Chaos. We call it innovation," Samantha replied, her patience wearing thin. "Sometimes the best solutions aren't the most obvious ones." The alien leader's form pulsed with what might have been anger. "This cannot be allowed to continue. Your species' approach to technology threatens the very fabric of ordered space. We will provide you with proper technology. You will cease these repairs." Commander Blackwood, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. "While we appreciate the offer, we're quite satisfied with our current methods." "This is not an offer," the alien stated. "This is a directive. Compliance is mandatory." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Samantha's hand tightened around her wrench as she noticed the alien crystals beginning to emit a high-frequency hum. "You can't be serious," she said. "You're threatened by our ability to fix things. Your species introduces variables into equations that should be constant. You create solutions that should not exist. This is dangerous. Unacceptable." The alien's form was now pulsing with bright, aggressive patterns. Blackwood's hand moved subtly toward his sidearm. "I suggest you reconsider your position. Humanity doesn't respond well to threats. Your response is irrelevant. We have analyzed your capability for resistance. Your technology is inferior. Your methods are flawed. You will be corrected." As if on cue, the station's AI announced, multiple ships detecting emerging from hyperspace. Crystalline configuration. Estimated count, 300 and rising. Samantha looked at her wrench, then at the aliens, and finally at Commander Blackwood. In that moment, she understood something fundamental about their visitors: they feared what they couldn't control, and nothing was less controllable than human ingenuity. "Sir," she said quietly, "I think we're about to learn exactly how their perfect technology handles imperfect solutions." The alien leader's patterns turned harsh and angular. You have 24 of your hours to prepare for integration. Resistance will result in your station's deconstruction. As the aliens departed, Samantha was already running calculations in her head. She knew every system, every pipe, every circuit on this station. More importantly, she knew how to make them do things they were never designed to do. Commander Blackwood turned to her. "Reed, tell me you've got something." A smile spread across her face as she pulled out her tablet. "Sir, you know how they say their technology doesn't need repairs? Well, I think it's time we introduce them to some good old-fashioned human maintenance." The war for humanity's right to fix things was about to begin, and Samantha Reed was ready to show these aliens exactly why evolution favored those who could adapt, repair, and overcome. "You want to do what?" Commander Blackwood stared at Samantha as if she'd suggested powering the station with magic beans. She adjusted the holographic display, showing the intricate scans she'd taken of the alien ships during their brief visit. "Their technology doesn't account for entropy, sir. They've designed perfect systems that only work under perfect conditions. That's their weakness." Dr. Wells leaned forward, his eyes widening as he studied the data. "Fascinating. Their crystal matrices are quantum-locked. They maintain structural integrity through, is that a localized probability field?" "Exactly," Samantha replied, zooming in on a particular section. "They don't repair things because their technology literally can't handle imperfection. Once a component starts to degrade, the whole system rejects it." Lieutenant Grace Joe, the station's tactical officer, crossed her arms. "And how does this help us against 300 warships?" Samantha's grin turned mischievous. "Because we're going to introduce a little chaos into their perfect system. Remember that primitive maintenance protocol I wrote for the station's waste recycling system? The one that had half the engineering team calling you insane?" Blackwood raised an eyebrow. "That's the one. We've been using it to handle random fluctuations in the system by creating controlled feedback loops. What if we could project something similar, but on a quantum level?" The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Dr. Wells was the first to speak. "You're talking about weaponizing entropy itself." "More like weaponizing our ability to handle it," Samantha corrected. "Their ships are designed to function in perfect harmony. But nothing in the universe is perfect, except their inability to deal with imperfection." The next 18 hours were a blur of activity. While the Crystalline Consensus fleet held position just outside weapons range, the station became a hive of organized chaos. Samantha led a team of engineers in modifying the station's deflector array, converting it into something that had never existed before. "Pass me that phase inverter," she called out from inside an access tunnel. James Rodriguez, her best systems engineer, slid the tool her way. "Boss, are you sure this won't tear a hole in space-time?" he asked, only half joking. "Pretty sure. Like, at least 60% sure." She connected another set of cables to their jury-rigged quantum manipulator. "Besides, better that than becoming part of their perfect society." The station's AI interrupted their work. "Crystalline vessels are advancing. 13 minutes until they enter weapons range." Samantha emerged from the tunnel, her face streaked with new stains. "Status report. Quantum manipulator is online," Rodriguez reported. "Though I still think calling it the entropy gun is a bit dramatic." "Engineering is all about style points," she replied, heading for the control room. "Start the power-up sequence." On the observation deck, Commander Blackwood watched the approaching fleet with calculated calm. "Tell me this will work, Reed. Remember that time I fixed the quantum coffee maker with rubber bands and paper clips? The one that now makes better coffee than when it was new? Same principle, sir. Sometimes the best solutions are the ones that shouldn't work at all." The alien fleet drew closer, their crystalline ships arranging themselves in perfect geometric patterns. Their leader's voice echoed through the station's comm system, your time has expired. Prepare for integration. Samantha took a deep breath and activated her modified systems. Actually, I think it's time for a little preventive maintenance. The entropy gun powered up with a sound that made several crew members wince. A beam of what appeared to be pure chaos, if chaos could be visible, lanced out from the station. Where it touched the alien ships, their perfect crystalline structures began to show microscopic imperfections. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like a cascade of falling dominoes, the alien ships began to react. Their perfect systems, encountering imperfection for the first time, tried to compensate. But they couldn't adapt, couldn't adjust, couldn't repair. Their shields are failing, Jo reported, wonder in her voice. They're trying to reject their own components. The alien leader's voice returned, now distorted with what might have been panic. What have you done? This is impossible. You cannot introduce chaos into perfection. Watch us, Samantha muttered, adjusting the beam's frequency. More alien ships began to show signs of strain, their crystal matrices developing fractures as their own rigidity worked against them. Their fleet is retreating, Jo announced. No, correction, they're running away. The observation deck erupted in cheers, but Samantha was already moving. Rodriguez, start collecting data. I want to know exactly what happened to their systems. Dr. Wells, we need to analyze those fracture patterns. This isn't over. What do you mean? Blackwood asked, following her. We just drove off their entire fleet. Sir, we showed them their greatest weakness, their inability to adapt. They'll be back, and next time, they'll try to eliminate the source of chaos rather than control it. You mean us? All of humanity, she confirmed. We don't just repair things, sir. We improve them. We adapt them. We make them work in ways their creators never imagined. To beings who worship perfection, we're a virus in their perfect universe. Blackwood was quiet for a moment. How long do we have? They'll need time to develop countermeasures, to try to perfect their defenses against imperfection. She laughed at the irony. I'd say we have a week, maybe two, before they return with everything they have. And we'll be ready. Samantha picked up her wrench, twirling it thoughtfully. Sir, by the time they get back, I'm going to show them exactly why humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology, it's our ability to make any technology work better than it was designed to. As she headed back to engineering, her mind was already racing with ideas. The Crystalline Consensus had made a crucial mistake, they had given her a look at their technology, their weaknesses, and most importantly, their fear of imperfection. Now it was time to show them why the ability to repair, adapt, and overcome made humanity not just survivors, but innovators in a universe that was anything but perfect. 2 weeks passed in a flurry of sparks, calculations, and increasingly audacious modifications to Orbital Station 7. Samantha stood in the newly christened Chaos Lab, surrounded by holographic displays showing simulations of crystal lattice degradation patterns. They're back, Lieutenant Joe's voice came through the intercom. And they brought friends. Samantha rushed to the observation deck, her tablet displaying real-time sensor data. The sight made her breath catch, not hundreds, but thousands of crystalline ships filled the viewport, their perfect formations stretching beyond visual range. Well, Commander Blackwood said dryly, I think we got their attention. The sensor data painted an even grimmer picture. The alien ships had modified their crystal matrices, adding layers of redundancy and what appeared to be quantum stabilization fields. Their previous trick wouldn't work twice. Head Mechanic Reed, the alien leader's voice resonated through the station, somehow even more pristine than before. Your resistance has been analyzed and accounted for. Your chaos cannot penetrate our enhanced perfection. Samantha stepped forward. You still don't get it, do you? Perfect systems are predictable systems. And predictable systems can be beaten. Your primitive understanding amuses us. Observe true perfection. The alien fleet began to move, their formations shifting into complex geometric patterns that seemed to defy physics. Energy began to build between their ships, forming a vast crystalline web. Dr. Wells's instruments began screaming. They're creating some kind of unified quantum field. The energy readings are off the charts. But Samantha was smiling. For 2 weeks, she and her team had been preparing for this moment. Rodriguez, initiate Protocol Murphy. You named it Protocol Murphy? Blackwood asked. Everything that can go wrong, will go wrong, she replied. For them. Throughout the station, systems that had been modified far beyond their original specifications hummed to life. The entropy gun had been just the beginning, a proof of concept. What they had planned now was far more ambitious. Their quantum field is approaching critical alignment, Dr. Wells reported. Whatever they're planning, it's happening soon. Perfect timing, Samantha said. Launch the drones. From the station's maintenance bays, hundreds of small drones emerged. They looked cobbled together, because each one contained parts from at least 3 different systems, held together with what appeared to be mechanical stubbornness and engineering spite. The alien leader's voice returned, tinged with what might have been amusement. Your primitive machines cannot affect us. Our quantum field will dash. Now. Samantha commanded. The drones activated, but instead of attacking, they began to malfunction. Spectacularly. Each drone began generating its own unique field of chaos, electromagnetic interference, gravitational fluctuations, quantum instabilities, and dozen other types of carefully calculated accidents. The effect on the alien fleet was immediate. Their perfect quantum field, designed to handle organized resistance, suddenly faced thousands of different types of disorder simultaneously. It was like trying to play chess against an opponent who had decided to play 50 different games at once, using rules from completely different sports. Impossible, the alien leader's voice crackled. You are deliberately causing your machines to fail. We're not causing them to fail, Samantha corrected. We're causing them to fail creatively. There's a difference. The alien fleet's perfect formation began to waver as their quantum field tried to compensate for the chaos. But each compensation created new variables, new imperfections, new problems to solve. Their ships are losing coherence, Zhou reported, unable to keep the amazement from her voice. The quantum field it's eating itself trying to maintain perfection. Samantha watched as her plan unfolded. The aliens' greatest strength, their pursuit of perfection, had become their greatest weakness. Their systems couldn't handle imperfection, so they tried to perfect their response to it. But you couldn't perfect chaos. The more they tried, the more variables they introduced into their own systems. Rodriguez, she called, initiate Phase 2. The station's modified systems powered up, generating their own field of controlled chaos. But unlike the drones, which created random disorder, this was chaos with a purpose. It resonated with the aliens' degrading quantum field, amplifying their overcorrections and turning their pursuit of perfection into a feedback loop of increasing entropy. Crystal ships began to break formation, their perfect geometries distorting as their systems tried desperately to maintain order in a sea of deliberate disorder. Some began to crack, their matrices unable to handle the strain of their own rigidity. You cannot do this, the alien leader's voice was distorting badly now. This defies all logical protocols. That's humanity's secret, Samantha replied. We don't follow protocols, we adapt them. We don't worship perfection, we learn from failure. And right now, you're experiencing the perfect failure of perfect systems. The alien fleet's formation completely collapsed. Ships began to retreat, their crystal structures showing visible fractures. Others simply shut down, their systems overwhelmed by the task of maintaining perfection in an imperfect situation. They're running, Zhou announced. Again. But this time. I think they learned something. Samantha watched the retreat with mixed feelings. They had won this battle, but the war wasn't over. The Crystalline Consensus would return, and next time, they would have to face an even more difficult question: could they learn to adapt, or would their pursuit of perfection be their ultimate downfall? "Commander," she said, turning to Blackwood, "I need authorization to start implementing our next phase of modifications." "Already planning for their return?" "No," she replied, her eyes on the retreating fleet. "I'm planning for something bigger. They'll either come back having learned to adapt, which makes them more dangerous, or they'll come back with an even more perfect system. And that's worse. Much worse. Because this time, they'll try to remove the imperfection entirely." "You mean us?" "All of humanity," she confirmed. "We're a cosmic repair shop in their perfect universe, and they can't handle that. Next time, they won't try to integrate us, they'll try to eliminate us." Blackwood was quiet for a moment. "How long?" "A month, maybe 2. They'll need time to process their failure, to try to perfect their response to imperfection." She laughed at the paradox. "And we'll use that time to prepare the messiest, most brilliantly improper defense in human history." As the last alien ship disappeared from their sensors, Samantha was already heading back to her workshop, her mind racing with new ideas. The Crystalline Consensus had made another mistake. They had shown her exactly how their pursuit of perfection could be turned against them. Now it was time to prepare humanity's ultimate demonstration of why the ability to embrace imperfection, to adapt, and to overcome was the truest form of technological advancement. 1 month and 13 days after the second battle, Samantha stood in what had once been Orbital Station 7's main cargo bay. The space had been transformed into something that would have given any conventional engineer nightmares, and that was exactly the point. "They're coming," Rodriguez announced, his voice tight with tension. "Long-range sensors detect over 10,000 ships. It's their entire fleet." Samantha nodded, running her hands over the contraption she'd dubbed the Chaos Engine. It looked like something built by a genius suffering from caffeine psychosis, a maze of pipes, crystals, and quantum processors, all connected by what appeared to be pure engineering defiance. "Status report," Commander Blackwood's voice came through the comm. "The Chaos Engine is ready," Samantha replied. "Though I should warn you, there's a 12% chance it might accidentally create a new form of physics." "Only 12%? You're getting conservative in your old age, Reed." The station's AI interrupted, "Crystalline fleet approaching. New configuration detected. Their ships appear to be evolving." Samantha rushed to the observation deck, and her breath caught. The alien ships were different now, their crystal structures were more organic, less rigidly geometric. They moved with a fluidity that suggested they had learned something from their previous defeats. "Head Mechanic Reed." The alien leader's voice was different too, multiple tones speaking in harmony. "We have analyzed our failures. We have evolved beyond the constraints of perfect order." "Well, that's not good," Rodriguez muttered. The alien fleet spread out in a pattern that seemed to defy traditional physics, their ships morphing and flowing like liquid crystal. "We have learned from our encounters. Perfection through adaptation. Order through controlled chaos. You have taught us well." Samantha felt a chill. They had learned. They had taken humanity's greatest strength, adaptation, and perfected it. "All ships," Blackwood commanded, "battle stations." The alien leader continued, "But you have also taught us that some imperfections cannot be corrected. Some chaos cannot be controlled. You are a disease in the cosmic order, spreading uncertainty through the universe. You must be eliminated." The alien fleet began to move, their new fluid formations creating patterns that made Samantha's eyes hurt. Energy began to build between their ships, but this time it wasn't rigid and controlled, it was adaptive, flowing, learning. "They're generating some kind of evolving quantum field," Dr. Wells reported, his instruments going haywire. It's learning from every attempt to analyze it." Samantha smiled. Perfect. Perfect. Zhou looked at her like she was mad. They've literally perfected imperfection. How is that perfect? Because they still don't understand. Samantha activated her tablet, connecting to the chaos engine. They think they've learned to adapt, but they're still trying to perfect the process. They're still trying to control it. The alien fleet's attack began. Their energy field reached out, probing the station's defenses, learning from each interaction. Traditional shields buckled under attacks that evolved faster than they could respond. Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7, the AI reported. Their weapons are adapting to our defenses faster than we can modify them. Reed, Blackwood's voice was tense. If you've got a plan, now would be the time. Initiating Chaos Protocol, Samantha announced. Throughout the station, systems began to power up, but not in any way their designers had intended. Rodriguez, start the sequence. The Chaos engine roared to life, its seemingly random assembly of components working together in ways that defied conventional engineering. But unlike their previous encounters, it wasn't generating disorder, it was generating possibility. What are you doing? The alien leader's harmonic voice showed the first signs of uncertainty. We're not fighting your adaptation, Samantha replied. We're feeding it. Every possibility, every potential failure, every crazy solution we've ever tried. We're giving your perfect system exactly what it wants, everything. The Chaos engine began pumping out data, billions of repair logs, maintenance reports, jury-rigged solutions, and engineering improvisations. Each one represented a different way humans had solved problems, adapted to failures, and overcome limitations. The alien fleet's adaptive field tried to process it all, tried to learn from each solution, tried to perfect its response to every possibility. But there were too many variables, too many solutions that shouldn't work but did, too many examples of humanity's stubborn refusal to accept limitations. Their ships, Zhou reported with awe, they're trying to adapt to everything at once. The crystalline vessels began to shift and change, their forms becoming increasingly complex as they tried to account for every possibility. But with each adaptation, they had to maintain their previous adaptations, creating an exponential cascade of complexity. You cannot defeat us with information, the alien leader declared, but their harmonic voice was showing strain. We will adapt. We will perfect. We will dash. That's exactly what you'll do, Samantha said softly. You'll keep trying to perfect your response until your systems collapse under the weight of their own complexity. She was right. The alien ships were changing faster now, their crystal structures becoming increasingly intricate as they tried to maintain countless adaptations simultaneously. Some began to fragment, unable to maintain their integrity under the strain of infinite possibility. Their fleet is losing cohesion, Zhou announced. Ships are starting to break apart. No, they're evolving themselves to death. The alien leader's voice returned, now a cacophony of competing harmonics. Stop. The possibilities, too many, cannot maintain, perfection requires. Perfection doesn't exist, Samantha replied. That's what makes the universe beautiful. That's what makes progress possible. That's what makes humanity strong. The alien fleet was in chaos now, their ships either retreating or succumbing to their own runaway evolution. Their attempt to perfect adaptation had led to their ultimate failure. They had tried to control something that could only exist in freedom. As the last ships fled or fell dark, Samantha looked at her tablet, watching the cascade of data flowing through the chaos engine. Each line represented a different solution, a different adaptation, a different example of humanity's greatest strength, the ability to embrace imperfection and turn it into progress. They'll be back, she said quietly. You think so? Blackwood asked. Yes. But next time, they'll have a choice to make. They can either accept that perfection isn't the answer, or they can keep trying to perfect imperfection until they evolve themselves out of existence. She turned to her team, already seeing new possibilities in the data they'd gathered. Either way, we'll be ready. Because that's what humans do, we adapt, we improve, and we never stop finding new ways to make the impossible possible.